So whenever I get to a point where I am genuinely scared about what I'm going to do next, what the next decision is that I'm going to have to make when it comes to my finances, what bill I'm going to have to put up, anything like that, I do something that is definitely not recommended by people who genuinely have YouTube channels talking about their finances and how they handle them. I actually stop budgeting. And I know that might sound a little bit crazy, but hear me out. So, first of all, I budget by paycheck. So, I might not do a budget for the first paycheck of the month, but then by the time that second paycheck comes, I'm kind of back on track and setting up a budget is good to go. So basically, not doing a budget is reserved for times when I truly feel like I am in a financial crisis. So let me define that. So basically, financial crisis for me is any situation I'm in where I am going to have to make some tough decisions about what bills are not getting paid from the paycheck they're supposed to be paid from. It's basically a matter of what do I have to put off because I literally don't have another choice. I consider this to be a financial crisis because you're basically going from living paycheck to paycheck, which is a bad enough situation to be in, to even the paycheck is not enough to get you through that pay period. And I just, honestly, the biggest thing that put me so behind is buying the phone that I'm using right now. Now, if you don't have a lot of money, why would you go out and buy a phone? That's a great question. I'm glad you asked. So a phone is something that I would consider to be a necessity. I've had some issues with my phone being super slow and things of that nature. I can deal with inconvenience. I am not going to go out and spend money I don't have for an inconvenience. But there were several instances back to back where I was not able to make a phone call. Now, a couple of these instances specifically had to do with work. So obviously, I can't just not be able to do my job. But the main thing for me is that I do consider that to be a safety problem. If I'm in a situation where I need to make a phone call for my safety, I can't just not be able to make the phone call. So, yes, I bought a phone when I did not plan for it, did not budget for it, and that set me massively behind. It really created a complete snowball effect in terms of the rest of my finances. Everything's out of whack now. But I do feel that it was a necessity because it was for my safety. It was not just this, oh, I want it, therefore I'll get it type of thing. Actually, all things considered, I'm not really happy with the phone that I got. I would have gotten something much better had I been able to plan this out a little bit better, but I'm in the situation I'm in now. So there are really two reasons I stopped budgeting my paychecks. The first is that in a situation like this, I really need to take it day by day. I really need to make decisions about what I'm doing day by day. So because as we all know, in addition to our bills that we pay every single month, the expenses that we can predict, there will also be a handful of unexpected expenses. So, for example, there was a bill that I could have paid out of this particular pay period. I held off because it seemed like my car was having an issue. It ended up being something I was able to resolve very, very cheaply and did not become this massive expense. But I wanted to hold on to that money in my account to be absolutely sure that I wasn't going to have to spend it on the car. Or let's say I'm going with very minimal gas and groceries based on what else I need for that particular pay period. I might wait until the end of that pay period to make those decisions about that grocery trip. Usually, I do my grocery shopping and things like that at the beginning of the pay period. Groceries a whole situation right now. I'll get to that in a little bit. But that would basically be my mindset in this situation. I'm going to take it day by day. I'm going to figure out what I need to do today. I'm going to figure out tomorrow what's needed for that day, and so on until I can get to a more stable place again. And just one thing to add here as a note, when I say I don't budget, I don't mean I stop tracking expenses. I'm tracking my expenses. I'm seeing everything that I'm spending. I'm taking a look at it. I'm taking it seriously. I'm just not taking the time to sit down and put down an actual budget. Which brings me to the second reason I have that I stop budgeting when I'm facing financial crisis. I'm a big believer that if you want to solve a problem, you have to have all the facts of the case in front of you. You have to be willing to take a look at the whole picture before you can start kind of breaking things down into how you want to tackle things. And part of that is understanding your own psychology and how you think. So for me personally, if I write down a goal, this is also why I'm not that big on goal setting, because it's like, if you put a goal that's too small or something that you're basically already accomplishing, then what's the point? But if you do what I used to do, which was set a massive goal and really try to push yourself, I'm the type of person I will feel very defeated if I set a goal and I do not meet it. That is just the type of person that I am. So as a result of that, I am very, very particular when I set a goal for myself. And that's kind of how I view a budget. You're being strict with your money. But at the end of the day, you're setting goals for yourself. I'm not going to overspend in this category. I'm not going to overspend in that category. That's what a budget is, telling your money where to go. And since we can't control everything that comes at us in life, at the end of the day, they're goals. Your goal is to stay within budget. It doesn't mean you're going to. So that same logic kind of applies to setting up a budget. If I set up a budget and I know I can't stick to it, I know I'm going to be in the red, I know I'm going to have to go figure out what to do, maybe do some gig work, maybe ask for help, something of that nature, there's no point in taking the time to set up that budget. Not that budgets don't matter. Budgets absolutely matter, and when I can get to a point where I can budget again, I absolutely will immediately. But in the meantime, when my budget can't be what I want it to be, to me, there's not a point in going through that process because I'm setting something up that I'm not going to be able to stick to. Or I'm setting something up that is completely unrealistic because of how thin everything is stretched. I think after one more paycheck, I will be back on track. If that's not the case, I don't want to, but I can go out and do some gig work. I can take some odd jobs. I can figure something out to bring in enough money to kind of get me back on track. But aside from feeling discouraged when I don't meet the goals I have in a budget, I'm also just the type of person who becomes very stressed in that situation. If you don't have enough money for the time frame that you need, you're already stressed out. I don't need more stress on my plate because the thing about it is not just because stress is uncomfortable. No one likes feeling stressed, of course. But for me, that stress is going to lead to me making worse decisions. So for example, I am spending through the roof on restaurants right now. I've got to get it together. I've got to stop. So I haven't really talked about the food situation too much here recently, but essentially, I'm not that great of a cook. My kitchen is kind of small. I don't like it. I don't know how to organize it. It's just never quite what I need. My grocery shopping is all over the place. I'm extremely indecisive when it comes to meal planning. So there are just several things that are kind of making it difficult for me to stick to just cooking at home. Now, a lot of these problems, if I really look into things I can do to solve these problems, can at some point be resolved. But on top of that, I'm a stress eater. So I've pretty much just, even though I've spent quite a bit on groceries in the past couple of months, a lot of them have just not been eaten. There's been a lot of food that's been wasted. And then on top of that, I'm eating out all the time just because I am so stressed out that I just don't even want to think about going to the kitchen, having to make a decision about what I'm making, having more of a mess to clean up when the house is already a complete and total wreck. I'm just very, very stressed. And sitting down and making a budget that really just makes me feel like a failure is not going to do anything to help my financial situation. It's just going to make me feel worse. Now, having said all of that, I don't know if this is necessarily a strategy that I would recommend to anybody. This is about how I cope with my own personal financial situation. If you find that you were in a very difficult situation and budgeting is stressing you out to the point that it's a hindrance more than a help, then yes, in that circumstance, I would recommend not budgeting, at least for a pay period or two, a month or two, whichever budgeting method you use. But the goal should be to get back to budgeting as quickly as possible. And that is my goal for my situation.